So recently I realized I wasn't setting a boundary with someone I love because I was afraid of losing them. This video is kind of sort of like a follow-up from a video I did last week about like pre-therapy and post-therapy, and like why I was super emotional, and why it's just like me having to feel my feelings and all that, why that was so much for me. There's something in my life that someone I love doesn't necessarily agree with. I know the way they feel, and it's not like it's a secret or whatever, right? And instead of like addressing it, I tend to avoid it because I feel like that's easier for me. Even though I realize more and more recently, maybe it's like, the diagnosis, me coming to the term that like I'm dropping the mask that I've been carrying the last 40 years, and this is just a part of it. I realized that instead of addressing it, I was just like suppressing the way I felt and avoiding it because of fear. Because of that last therapy appointment, when I had to actually feel my feelings instead of explaining them, I realized that I was no longer okay with shrinking myself, maintain the relationship, and I had to the situation and the person missing myself of how I felt. I also expressed the fear that the reason why I never spoke up before because I felt like their love for me was conditional, and I also didn't speak up because of the fear of losing them. Being honest and saying I was so scared to have that conversation. But I think because I felt like maybe a little brave after actually feeling my feelings in therapy and naming them, and then I also felt sad. So I was like, since I'm here anyway, I might as well go ahead and rip the band-aid all the way off. And I had spoke to my best friend, and my best friend was like, well, do it, but do you have like the capacity to do it? And for me, I'm like, well, I'll say like I was already down. So I'm like, I'm already here. Yes, it could make things worse, but I mean, I'm already feeling horrible about the whole thing anyway. So let me just deal with it all in one whop instead of like nagging at it and going piece by piece. Um, so I cried. I was prepared to be devastated, but I wasn't. And when I finally had the conversation, definitely different than what I expected, because I expected that, and I think that goes back to my processing to worst case scenario. Every decision, everything is so intense. So when I went into that conversation, fully expecting that to be the end of it and my life changing and my worst fear coming to pass. But what ended up happening in that conversation was so much more different, and it made me realize that like it wasn't that bad. It was your worst fear didn't happen. The worst case scenario didn't happen, and it actually shifted things for me because it gave me something that I realized I needed all this time, which was feeding my fear. And I finally got it. I finally got the reassurance I've always needed from this person. And it didn't like magically fix anything. It didn't magically say, "Oh, things are different," but it definitely did shift things, and it made me feel like my fear wasn't true. I realized that sometimes the conversation that you avoid is what shows you what actually was actually safe and gives you what you actually